Okay, here we are on a Windows PC. I'm going to go over Jamulus and ASIO4All. Just the basics. The reason why ASIO4All is such a pain for people is uh, it's not very intuitive, and Windows just doesn't handle audio very well. Most programs that you use, like Cortana or uh, voice recorder or stuff like that, they use what's called WDM, which is the native Windows sound driver. It's very slow and it doesn't work well with professional audio applications. It has a lot of latency, so none of the low latency systems like Jamulus or SoundJack work with it. So they all work with ASIO. ASIO is a different uh, audio driver, and most consumer grade audio cards don't support it. So ASIO4All was created years ago, and it hasn't been changed since. It has one function, and that's just to translate WDM into ASIO without causing more latency. But it has a lot of flaws, and the biggest flaw is that it really will only allow one application at a time to access the audio. And for that reason, you have to do things in the right order. First of all, I've got my task manager here just to make sure that there's no program running that might be trying to grab my audio before I have a chance to actually use it in Jamulus, which is the only program I want to use. For instance, if I was using something like Zoom, Zoom would grab my microphone first, and then I would try using Jamulus, and most likely it would then click over to Jamulus and it would no longer be available in Zoom, and so on. Only Windows has this problem, and this is why ASIO4All creates an enormous headache for people. So here's what I suggest that you do. This may work for you, or maybe it won't. I don't know. Windows is always a crapshoot. So we're going to go to this speaker icon here. You right-click that. Apparently my right-click doesn't work while using VNC. I also have to mention I'm using VNC because I can't even screen record while I'm using ASIO. So I open my sound settings, and I make sure that I do have some signal coming in my microphone, which I do. It's not a very hot signal, but that's okay. Now this sound control panel is not all that useful because it's really just a shell for the actual sound control panel, which you find here. This is another reason I don't like Windows. This is the more important and more useful sound control panel, where you have both an output and input device. It's important to know what these check marks mean. The check mark here means that it's the default device, and I happen to know that these speakers are the speakers that I'm normally using. In order to get an input device, we need to click on the recording tab here, and as you can see, I am showing some signal here. So this is the correct input. My microphone is going into the line in, and as you can see, there are a few other choices here. There's this microphone input, which it says it's not plugged in. There were also a few other choices of output that say they're not plugged in. So it's good to keep this open as a reference. So I've got this as a reference and this here to let me know whether or not I have some other application that might be messing with our sound. Now I'm going to open Jamulus. I've already configured everything to work, so as you can see, my device here is ASIO4All. And that's it. There's no other choice that's going to work. ASIO4All, period. And once I connect to a server, I should see some metering here to indicate that my signal is actually going out into the server, which it is. So it's working. Now, if you're having problems, you need to go to the ASIO setup, and you can arrive there either by clicking this, or if it's not available, which it isn't in some cases, you go down to this caret and you choose this ASIO4All icon, which brings up the ASIO4All control. Now, it might not show all of this stuff. If it doesn't, then you just click on the wrench. The wrench icon brings up all of the settings. Now, this happens to be the device that I'm using, and I know that my mic is connected into the line input and that my headphones are connected to the audio output. So as you can see, both of these show up, and they both show their status as active, and they're enabled, meaning that this little play button is working. If I were to deselect one of these, have a look at what happens over here. If I deselect this, now there's no input at all. As I'm speaking, nothing's happening. If I reselect this, we're back to normal. If for some reason I had chosen, or this thing had automatically chosen the wrong input, like this one, for instance, then I'd get nothing because I'm not plugged into the correct input. So I don't want to choose this one. It might be available because the device is working, but you're not plugged into the correct input. Once I enable the correct input, then it works. Sometimes you end up with red X's or yellow icons here, and that tends to indicate that there's a conflict or that the particular device in question is not available, or that there is some other program, which maybe you'll find in here, that's grabbed your audio and therefore it's not available in ASIO4All. Now, all of these other settings here are probably not going to change anything once you're locked to Jamulus. As you can see, my ASIO buffer size, I could change it, but this little block here indicates that it's already locked to that setting, 128, which is what we see here. If I want to change to 64, as you can see, it changed in ASIO. If I go down here, 64 samples, go to there, 128. Now, you don't have to do any of this because Jamulus is already in control of it. We don't have to play with latency compensation because with Jamulus, we don't need it. So basically, all you really have to do is make sure that you have your correct input and output as indicated by working devices here in the sound control panel. And all other things should be disabled. These blue icons indicate that things are working properly. And that's it. That's how you use ASIO4All in Windows with Jamulus. So maybe this works for you, maybe not. As I had already mentioned, Windows is just a giant ball of headaches when it comes to audio. So I hope this works for you. If not, I hope that there's some bit of information that will be useful. But keep in mind that my process and your process are probably going to be different simply because Windows is never the same from one instance to another. Good luck.